and Accountability Committee's coordinator, Isaac Jomna. Hello, good evening, sir. Welcome to Eyewitness News. This is such an ominous forecast you have made of the National Oil Company. Can you break down for us what exactly you meant by government is indebted to the state oil company to the tune of some 1.14 billion Ghana cedis?
Right. Good evening to your listeners and good evening to yourselves. Thanks for the opportunity. So the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, after the publication of its statutory report, chooses to highlight some pertinent issues that arise from the report. And from the 2022 annual report, it chose to focus on the National Oil Company, the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. Now, the issue on hand being discussed relates to the indebtedness of the state and other government agencies to the National Oil Company. Now, the total amount of $1.14 billion being referred to spans from 2011-12 all the way to 2022. If you look at the breakdown, some of them are projects that have been funded by the National Oil Company already. For example, the gas enclave roads to the tune of about $124.66 million relates to road projects of roads in the gas enclave. These are roads that would, according to GNPC, facilitate the evacuation of gas in trucks in the enclave. So these are projects that have been paid off already. But the committee is of the view that these are should be central government funded projects, not projects of the National Oil Company. So to the extent that the National Oil Company has paid for them, it is a responsibility on central government to refund the money to the National Oil Company so that it uses that on its core mandate of petroleum exploration, development, production to increase the revenue that comes to the state from upstream petroleum operations. So just a typical example of expenditures that have already been incurred and paid for. There are some that relate to guarantees that the corporation has made for state-owned enterprises, projects that are purely government projects. Let me give another example. The legal battle that the state had with La Côte d'Ivoire on the maritime boundary relating to the 10 project was funded from GNPC's allocations to GNPC. The committee is of the view that this was a legal battle between two sovereign states, Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire. So to this extent, it should rather be the state paying for the cost of the litigation and not the National Oil Company. Even though this has been paid for, the committee is of the view that the money spent on the litigation should be refunded to the National Oil Company to better position it to be able to fulfill its mandate as provided for in PNDC Law 64. So it is not entirely monies outstanding in the sense of monies owed to SOEs in the sense, but monies that have been spent on projects which the committee is of the view that they should be central government projects that should be paid by the central government and not be paid by the National Oil Company. So it is from this backdrop that the committee makes the finding it makes and then the recommendations to deal with the findings made.
So is it a case that if these monies you talk about expended on behalf of the government, if these monies are not refunded to the National Oil Company, the company will collapse after 2026, or you are saying that if the trend continues, then the company may collapse. Which is really the point?
Okay, so the committee makes reference to a provision in the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, which says that, according to the PRMA, not more than 55% of net carried and participating interest is to be given to the National Oil Company for two levels of funds. Level A, which relates to cash calls and operations in the three producing fields, and then level B, which relates to GNPC's operations as an entity. Now, the PRMA provides that from 2011, 15 years from 2011, this allocation is to continue, and that in the 15th year, this provision will be reviewed. So it could be reviewed not to be continued, to be discontinued. And the committee's concern is that should the decision be that this allocation will not be continued, especially the one relating to level B, because as for the level A, as long as the state is a partner in the three producing fields, it will have to fulfill its obligations. But with regards to the level B allocations, if this allocations to the National Oil Company should be discontinued, the corporation will not be well positioned financially to be able to play its NOC role, especially in light of the energy transition discussions, which seem to divert investments from upstream petroleum space. National oil companies will be called upon to play a critical role in the exploitation of oil and gas resources of nations for them to be able to benefit therefrom. Particularly for Ghana, petrol revenue contributes on the average about 7.5 to 8% of total government revenue. So it means that petrol revenue has a significant contribution to make to the development of the nation. And so the National Oil Company should be better positioned to be able to play its role in order that petrol revenue will continue to play its role in the economy as it is doing now, and even expected to do better.
I see. In terms of the some of the expenditures made in the past, you have referred to. So, for example, roads in the gas enclave areas. We've seen similar things in cocoa growing areas where we call these roads the cocoa roads. It's not a difficult situation because you have a rural area. There's a resource there, or the NOC is seeing a place there to develop or to do something there. For example, like the Etuabo area. Now, the infrastructure needed to facilitate their work must be ordinarily provided by government. Here's a case: government is not in a position to do it in the short to medium term. So, if the NOC has money or GNPC has money to do it, that is fine. Asking government to refund that, I'm not sure how that is going to be in the face of the current economic challenges that we have. So, and they need the infrastructure to be able to do their work as well.
Well, that is an interesting point to make, and it would make sense, to make this argument. But the other side is that these are also quasi-fiscal expenditures, which are not expected to be made by national oil companies. In fact, if you look at international standards of extractive industry resources and their management and the protocols that relate to them, a lot of national oil companies are staying away from these expenditures to give room for central government to do these projects. I say that not oblivious of the fact that these projects relate very directly to the operations of the national oil company. But it still does not take anything away from the fact that these are supposed to be central government projects. And if we should allow things to continue like that, then the National Oil Company will become such a colossal body that will get so powerful to the point that citizens will look up to the National Oil Company to do development for citizens rather than for central government. So the responsibility of these projects is on central government rather than these state-owned enterprises, not only GNPC, but for PIAC, GNPC, because of our mandate. So much as it is, pardon my language, a very convenient argument to make about the national company doing these investments and extrapolating to affect Ghana Cocoa Board and cocoa roads and things like that, the expectation is that the national company will focus its resources on its mandate. Don't forget that the national company receives petroleum revenue allocated from the revenue that comes to the state. It may be different from the cocoa board situation. Plus, the cocoa is a renewable resource, so we have the opportunity to regenerate it. Petroleum is not a renewable resource, and so its management has different principles that must be applied so that when the resource runs out, we'll be able to look back and point to projects and programs that will bring ripple effects, positive ones on the economy, and will be the benefits that will be lasting on the economy.
I see. But have you engaged the management of GNPC on these and the recommendations that you have, apart from making the publications?
PIAC is in engagement with GNPC. Last December, we had a bilateral engagement with GNPC, and the engagement continues. I think earlier last month, in the month of March, the committee engaged GNPC. So we don't make these recommendations because there is lack of engagement between PIAC and GNPC. We make these recommendations public because PIAC is a public institution, a citizen-led institution that owes a duty to the public. And because the resource belongs to the public, it owes the public the duty to report to it from time to time so that the public gets to know what is going on. But there is constant engagement between PIAC and GNPC, and it's expected to continue.
I see. Notwithstanding the difficulties that this may pose, speaking from a PIAC point of view, will you say that the NOC or the GNPC has defaulted in any of its mandates of exploration, development, production, etc., of the oil resource? Is it a thing you can say, even in terms of cash calls upon it, in terms of the exploration or the production in the various fields? Has there been any circumstance where the national oil company has defaulted on any of its mandates?
Well, in the situations where there has been a default, the corporation has explained that it was a choice the corporation made, especially on the Sankofa Jinyame field. The petroleum agreement allows that the corporation would compare meeting the cash calls or defaulting and letting the operator lift on its behalf so that the revenue that proceeds from the lifting is used to offset whatever there is in terms of the cash call. So there have been one or two. I think these have been raised in the PIAC report. But for PIAC, it is not just about cash calls not being met. It's about better positioning the national oil company to be able to play a more strategic role in the environment of energy transition, in the environment where investments are going away from the industry. So the need for national oil companies the world over to better position themselves to now take over the role that international oil companies are now playing, so that the resources that have been blessed these nations will be of benefit to the nations.
I see. Thank you so much, Isaac Jomna, Coordinator at the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC. Thanks so much for speaking to us on the observations that you have made in respect of the future of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. Eyewitness News.